And ahead this morning, the DEI debate, we look at some divisive policies in schools nationwide, have some parents speaking up. President Trump talks DEI in his speech to Congress and mentions over $1 billion in DEI grants spent by the Department of Education under the Biden administration, which was uncovered in a report by Parents Defending Education. Joining us now to discuss this is Parents Defending Education's Director of Outreach, Erika Sanzi. Welcome to the National News Desk. And we're going to get to those grants in a second. But first, I really want to start with the Department of Education, because right now, obviously, that's the big story that so many people are talking about. They're waiting for this executive order for Trump to sign, kind of dismantling the Department of Education. But it's so important to point out, Congress is the one that really pulls the strings when it comes to the Department of Education going away.
Yes. Carter is the president who, founded or created the department. Mm-hmm. And the Republican Party has been talking about getting rid of it since Ronald Reagan's presidency.
They have, yeah.
So this is something we've heard about for a long time. And while it is true that there's a lot of bloat in that department, it has over 4,400 employees work in that department, and it is fair to criticize it for lots of reasons. The president cannot abolish the Department of Education. That would take an act of Congress. And in addition to that, there are federal programs that come out of the Department of Education that people are very concerned about because they're hearing a lot of misinformation that those programs would go away. So, for example, federal law about special education, it cannot go away. Now, could that money be shifted over to a different department and be funneled out that way? Yes, but the money cannot go away. Special education is protected. The same thing goes for Title I, which is the money that schools get if they have a high proportion of low-income students. That money is protected. It is federal law. So again, this idea that Trump can sort of just use his pen to sign this away is not true. And so the money is guaranteed. Now, if it does get moved, let's say, into the Treasury, or if money gets moved over to Health and Human Services, that just changes, where it emanates from. It's not going away. So could Linda McMahon, the new secretary, shrink it, change it, transform it, reorient it? Yes. But they can't just get rid of it, and they also cannot eliminate federally guaranteed programs.
Right, because some of these programs obviously predate the Department of Education, like funding for schools, low-income students, and that's before, so they just won't disappear. But I want to get to
actually, now. Angela, just one last thing, too, so people just know. The school lunch program has nothing to do with the Department of Education. So that comes out of a different department. I think it's the USDA. So again, anything you're hearing about school lunches in the Department of Ed, it's not true, because those two things aren't even connected.
Well, let's wrap back around to what we were talking about in the beginning, and that was your investigation into those DEI grants. What did you think, first of all, getting that shout out apparently, but your organization, what did you find out?
I mean, we had just poured over public documents, and by me, I mean our researchers who are amazing. And they discovered over $1 billion in grants that were targeted for the purpose of DEI, and that were flowing from the Department of Education into our public schools. So this meant money for race-based programming. This meant money for race-based hiring, race-based retention. There was a lot of talk in a lot of the language in these grants about sexual orientation, gender identity, kind of the usual stuff. And the truth is, they just sort of read like far-left activists had written them and copied and pasted them, and now they were sort of using the schools as a vehicle to bring that stuff to kids and to staff.
I want to get to this real quick, so we're running out of time. In his speech, Trump also discussed gender and highlighted a Florida mom, January Littlejohn, who sued her school county board, alleging that they helped her 13-year-old daughter socially transition without getting her consent. You're following this case now. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, well, we've known of January now for years because she was one of the first moms front and center on this issue. But what happened to her daughter, which was essentially that they put a plan in place behind the backs of the parents, and it meant a new name, new gender, accommodations into restrooms, locker rooms, et cetera. And what I will say is that I think that people are shocked to hear that this is happening. But this is the policy in most school districts across the country and has been now for a few years. Now, the executive order...
In terms of not notifying parents, you're saying that's the policy?
The issue of not notifying parents. So we will see, I suspect, and are seeing more lawsuits on this issue. Now, the executive order from the Trump administration does reverse this, but we are hearing a lot of districts saying they don't plan to comply at all. So I think we're going to see a lot more. But she's kind of... a profile in courage, because she came out and stepped out at a time that this was very difficult, and she's been at it now for a few years, and she certainly deserved that invitation.
All right, Erika Sanzi, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back.